What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. I'm your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesFromTechSupport. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story was called The Day of the Cactus. From my nightmares in the mid-2000s, I give you The Day of the Cactus. It's a nice, quiet morning in the call center in L2 support at a major US telecom. It's a Sunday. It's around 11 a.m. I clocked in almost 3 hours ago and I've taken a whopping 2 calls. Only one of those needed troubleshooting. The other was simple. It's so slow, our team is gathered around on the ground yakking and playing games rather than at our respective stations. The room is pretty small. Only about 25 people in the room, fully staffed. About half that are in the room. Up on the wall is a gigantic map of the United States made up of LEDs. Most of the map is green. This indicates everything is normal. A few parts are yellow. This means trouble has been reported, but the system is still responding. And a few red spots and dots here and there, indicating outages. I've got my shoes off with my feet up on my desk, reading a book. All in all, it's a wonderfully relaxing day. Then, it all went wrong. Terribly wrong. First was the beeping alarms, which none of us knew existed. What the heck is that god-awful racket coming out of every terminal? Then I see the wall, and my heart has stopped for a moment. California, from the middle to Los Angeles, has gone red. Millions of people are out of service. In the room, we were staring at the map, the computers, and each other. The headset starts beeping as people start receiving calls. I get a call. Within a minute, there are hundreds of calls in my queue. The general queue is in the high thousands and climbing rapidly. My system has populated an account from the Los Angeles area. Customer is angry. Has no service whatsoever. I try and cannot get a response from his phone. Actually, nothing will respond. It's like a meteor has destroyed Southern California, except I'm on a landline with someone right now. The entire call center is slammed. I have to tell my customer I'll give a call back, then put myself into not ready to start investigating what the heck is going on. Nobody in the room knows anything yet. The problem is in the GSM network. Everything else is working. I can reach all the equipment, but all GSM traffic falls into a black hole of unresponsiveness. Then someone shouts, "There it is!" There is a station not responding along Interstate 5. It's completely unresponsive. Like, I can't even talk to the internet equipment, and that is not very good. It's the link between the halves of the state. The rest of the network does not appreciate this link being down either. Problems are widespread as the system tries but cannot handle the load. Other systems are now being affected. Emergency dispatch technicians are sent to the area to determine what the hell is going on. My Nortel has the call queue in the tens of thousands. The previously laid-back atmosphere in the room is now grim as death. Agonizing. Useless. Incoming escalation after escalation where I can't tell them anything useful grinds on. People are very unwilling to hang up the darn phone without any kind of answers. It's grueling and repetitive. Finally, word and pictures come back from the dispatch technicians. There is no relay station. It's gone the way of Alderaan. A truck driver with a fully loaded trailer fell asleep at the wheel and drove off the highway. He made it way off the road and plowed straight through our gigantic fake cactus and associated hardware of a relay station. Obliterated. Nothing to fix, and the site isn't even usable. Sweet Jesus. The whole time, I'm fielding calls that I obviously can't do anything about, and people are angry. I actually did get one call from someone not in the affected area who waited through that queue. Only one out of hundreds, but it was a welcome relief. So this is how we got to learn to build and deploy a mobile relay station. It took a crazy effort between teams to build the equipment, then figure out how to deploy it. By the end of my nightmare shift, the link was functioning and was literally a van network parked around the brutalized remains of a giant fake cactus and outbuilding. Things were finally coming under control around the time I left and the queue was emptying. By the time I walked out the doors, about 100 2-minute-long calls later, I felt like I'd run a marathon, physically and mentally exhausted. I don't even remember the drive home. My head hit the pillow before the sun had set. The day of the cactus was finally over. Oh boy. Okay, so as someone who's worked in customer service-y field, I'd love to take this opportunity to tell you guys that customer service is absolutely horrendous. I hated it. Like, people are horrible, okay? Complaints all day get to you. And trust me, when someone's calling you, it's not to tell you, hey, you guys are fantastic. No, it's to tell you that you suck and you're ugly and you smell bad and you should go die in a hole. Basically, pretty much. 98% of the calls. Alrighty, this next story is called The Day I Shut Down an Entire Government Agency. So, a little backstory. This was in 96 to 97, and I had been working with this IT services company for only a few months. We had 2 customers with large HP 9000 Unix mainframes. I remember at least one of them was about 5 feet tall. In the back of those enclosures, you could swing open the door and mount rack equipment alongside expansion modules for the mainframe itself. One of those customers used that space to store network switches and hubs in the rack section, and it was common for us to go into the back of those servers and make changes to the network topology, service networking equipment, etc., while the server was still busy humming away. We had other customers that had TI 1500 Unix servers. The way these servers were described to me at the time was, quite literally, the little brother to the bigger HP 9000s. The enclosures of the TIs looked nearly identical to the HPs, along with the back door that swung open and gave access to the expansion modules, only on a much smaller scale. It's also unable to store rack equipment like its big brother. Now, I was not a Unix guy. By this point, I had dabbed a bit with Linux, but was hired primarily for my knowledge of Windows Desktop and NT, Novell, and various LAN and WAN technologies. We also had Unix specialists on staff, and nearly every one of the companies we had contracts with had their own staff as well to take care of these machines. Suffice it to say, I knew little to nothing on these machines themselves, as I was in the world of Pentium, Pentium Pro, Cyrix, and AMD. Now, on to the day in question. One of our clients was a county government agency. This was a fairly large county, so there was a lot of IT infrastructure involved with their operation. At this time, they were a Novell network, and on the PC side were just introducing Windows NT machines into their server infrastructure. But they also utilized a single TI 1500 that served their main application via green screen terminals, either terminals themselves or via terminal emulation on PC. We had just done some major changes to their network by deploying some new Windows NT servers and some new switches, and the owner of my company wanted us to go through the server room and equipment closets and confirm and update our maps of the connections. As an added bonus, he wanted us to tag the ends of cables with labels that said where the cable was plugged into at the other end. So I get there early one morning with a coworker and set about doing just that. We started with the equipment closet farthest away from the main server room and began working our way towards the center of their IT universe. We get nearly all the way through the main server room and are left with several cables going into the back of the TI 1500 enclosure. So we do what we've always done. Pop open the back enclosure door and start tracing the network cables leading into the back of it. We're about halfway done when the IT manager rushed into the room saying that all of the agency locations have crashed. He walks up to the main terminal and it's dead. Passed on. Ceased to be. This is an X terminal. He asked what we had been doing before it crashed, so we told him. Turns out the TI 1500 has a kill switch that shuts off power when you open the enclosure. So, as we opened the back to map out those connections, we also managed to kill the power to the server and shut down the entire organization in the middle of the workday. When he asked why we did that, even after reading the warning, I said something to the effect of, "Warning?" There, on the back door of the enclosure, was a large neon green sticker which said, in large print, and I'm paraphrasing from memory, "Do not open this enclosure while the server is powered on." A few minutes later, everything was back up and running and no damage to equipment or data. So we were finally able to sit back and have a laugh about it. Both myself and my coworker are about to celebrate 23 years with the company, and we still have this government agency as a client. Although about 10 years or so ago, I moved to software development. Alright, so that story was cool, and it's kind of funny how he accidentally shut down an entire government agency. However, my feeble mind could not understand more than 28.4% of what I just read. So, there's that. Alright, my anti-Karen task force, this next story is called Just Two Small Stories for the Price of One. Yeah. That's a smiley face. Quite a few years back, I did work practice as an automation technician for a fairly large factory in my hometown. And from there, two somewhat funny stories arose. When I went in on my very first morning, I was paired up with one of the automation technicians to go help in one of the machine halls because one of the machines wasn't working. So he grabbed his tool bag and off we went. We arrived at the machine hall and got to the machine in question with the operator standing next to it. "All the lights were on in this machine, but nothing works," according to said operator. So, the automation technician pops open the control panel to reveal all the wires and relays and whatnots on the insides, takes his multimeter and begins testing the various connections. It should be noted that there's a complete set of schematics hanging on the inside of the door panel. Anyway, everything seems to be in order. So he asks me to hit the startup button just to see what's going on. As I'm about to push the button, I notice there's a rather large dial with the words speed written above it. So I of course asked the automation technician what speed I should put it on. And out of the corner of my eye, I notice the operator facepalming, whilst muttering, "I don't think there's any problems with the machine." The automation technician just chuckles. "Yeah, I think we're done here then." And we went back. Nothing dramatic or anything, just fun. Intermission time. Okay, that story was insanely disappointing, but it was kind of cute with the little smiley faces. I kind of dig it. But yeah, just goes to show, make sure you check everything off your list before you ask for help, I guess. Alright, continuing. The other one though was a bit more dramatic. The other story happened when I had been there for about 2 weeks. We were called over to the research and development department because all their power had gone. So I head out with another automation technician to find and fix the problems. We get there and yep, no power anywhere. So we find the power box and see that the HPFI relay, a safety master switch kind of thing, had popped. So we flick it back on and pop, it goes again. We then pop all of the fuses and turn the HPFI back on. No problems there, and began plugging the fuses in again, until the HPFI went out and thus we had found the culprit. A quick glance over the schematics revealed that the wire set in question was, of course, the one that controlled the ceiling ventilators, which were located on the top of the building. No reason for this to be easy. I inform all of the engineers and general R&D personnel that we'll be doing stuff with the power, so don't turn on your machines or anything until we give the okay for it. Automation technician handed me a radio and headed up and began checking the wires. Problem was fairly simple. Some debris in the ventilator shaft had damaged some of the wires which had enabled the ground wire to touch the phase, which in turn pops the HPFI. Automation technician calls me on the radio and asks me to turn on the power, so I do. He then does some work up there. Now that it's been confirmed that this was the issue, it was mostly just clearing away the debris, calling the boss to inform him what the problem was and whether we should just give it a patchwork or replace the wires entirely. After maybe 3 to 4 minutes, he calls me to turn the power back off, so I do that. Maybe 10 seconds later, one of the R&D folks comes running out, screeching about, "Why'd the power go out again?" Because I turned it off? "But why'd you do that? My machine was in the middle of its boot up." Because, I was asked to? R&D chump snaps the radio from my hand. "I don't know who's on the other line, but get down here now." Automation technician then hurries his butt down to where I'm at and looks at the R&D guy. "There you are. Why'd you have to turn the power off? You're the one who told me that my machine don't take well to getting suddenly shut down like that." "Wait, you turned your machine on? Why?" "Because the power was back on. I thought you guys were done." Then ensued 5 minutes of absolute mayhem. Automation technician began shouting at the R&D guy who began shouting back. It wasn't until the head of research and development called the boss from the automation technician department that they both calmed down. But in the end, research and development dude was reprimanded for having turned his equipment on when we told him not to. Suppose that's something? The writing was a little strange, so I had to give the R&D guy a bit of a hick accent because that's the vibe I was getting from the dialogue. Again, another good story, but I just don't understand half the stuff they're talking about. Goodness. Alright guys, this last story was called Our Last Consultant Disappeared. Can you take over? I'm between jobs and picking up the occasional 1 or 2 day security project to keep busy. One day, a recruiter asks me to help them out with a problem that requires me to be on site a few states away. Nothing about this gig was straightforward, but the rate was too good to ignore. "We placed a person there, they did a bunch of evaluation work, but then they went radio silent before explaining everything to the client." "And you want me to do what?" "Look over his work and present it to their CEO." I'm not so sure. Flying out and back is some wear and tear." "They'll fly you." I figured they'd take care of it." "No, they have a plane. They'll fly you." Now I'm intrigued. I agree. I get a dump of internal documents and a draft report with a bunch of notes. This is a client niche software as a service provider. Their customers are large entities with a penchant for vintage or unsupported software that runs everything. The client's platform lets them still use them and work with less obsolete partners. Client's got a steady income stream, but doesn't want to spend any money they don't have to. Their infrastructure is mostly sane, but there's some things I want to call out. I prep a few slides to present the findings. A few days before the meeting, I'm told that John, the guy recruiter previously placed, has surfaced from hiding and will be coming out with me. We're also going to be presenting to client's new security engineer who is coming in to meet us. I fly out with recruiter and John on a small jet to client city. We BS for a while, but John is a little wary of me. We land, grab a rental car, and make our way to a hotel that's a rung up from the usual consultant storage unit. An hour later, I'm in the bar, seeking sustenance, reading a book, sketching out the high points I want to make. For an artificial environment such as a hotel bar, it's busier than I'd expect for a weekday. Pretty much everyone at this bar is a business traveler. Smiles and corporate speak are abundant. Some flirting happens over open laptops. It's fun to watch. For some people, this is a moment away from spouses and children. Perhaps what happens at the Marriott stays at the Marriott. Anyhow, I'm trying to list the things that bother me in the client's environment just in case John doesn't convince the client or doesn't bring them up. I'm scribbling in my notes when someone sits next to me. It's a woman in her mid to late 20s. I'm about to go back into my notes when I see what she's looking at. Two men who look like band members from a forgotten 80s hair metal band are in the bar, looking around. One is wearing a leather jacket and a few bright scarves. The other looks like an extra from Macklemore's thrift shop video, wearing leather pants with odd buckles. A striped wool shirt and some kind of stupid fake fur vest make up his ensemble. He's also wearing a top hat with goggles. I try not to stare, but somehow they seem familiar. I smile to the woman sitting next to me, subtly point to the Britney Fox tribute band, and shrug my shoulders. Then go back to my notes. I'm trying to order my issues with client without coming across as negative. They're hosting in a co-location facility and claiming all colos audits as their own. That'll be a conversation with their salespeople, but they're not patching stuff or scanning for vulnerabilities. I'll talk with a security engineer and see if they need suggestions. Maybe they need older systems to be compatible. Maybe we can work out some compromises. Over my drink, I notice that the two oddly dressed people have split up and are slowly working the room. They're approaching women, talking to them for a few minutes, then move on when it seems they didn't get what they wanted. Maybe they're selling timeshares? I see the recruiter and John make their way into the bar. They make their way to a table and don't seem to notice me. I assume recruiter wants to chastise John about becoming unavailable and discuss whose end my pay is coming out of. I hear a voice behind me and notice the woman next to me looking at its owner. My buddy and I have a bet going. Do you believe in magic spells? Excuse me? I'm curious to see what it is. I turn around and take a look and my jaw drops. Ian? To be continued. Alright guys, sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger, however, that's all that's posted. But I promise you guys this, as soon as an update is posted, I will be on that crap like baloney breath on a Karen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.